Welcome everyone, wherever you are from all over the region and across the world. Thank you for spending time with us this today. PKA actually thought about the situation where we are heading into. I think it's a matter of time before we will have this pandemic under control. So I think it's about time we spend a little more time to discuss this and then make sure that we are ready when there is a spike in the demand for port shipping and logistics services. Let me just share my slides quickly before I start my presentation. Okay, I hope you can see them all.
Yes.
All right, great. So generally, we have been almost a year into this now, slightly more than a year since we were hit by this pandemic late 2020, or sorry, 2019 it was, and early 2020. So there's a lot of things have happened in 1 year, and we are today hoping that we'll find some solutions which will take us through and probably see the light at the end of the tunnel. And this is already happening. This is already happening in many countries where the vaccines have started to roll out. And I think this is a beginning of a long process for many countries to get their population vaccinated so that we can get on with our business. But, when we started this sometime early 2020, I think many of us were in a limbo. We didn't know what to make of this, how to handle this pandemic situation, the impact that it had on many industries. So the port shipping and logistics industries were no exception. We were hit quite badly. Malaysia started its lockdown in March. Immediately we saw, after the first quarter, we saw a sudden dip in movement of cargo, as well as vessel calls. We actually went through a very lean period in the second quarter of 2020. We recorded 17% drop in cargo as compared to 2019. But then we saw the moment there was a lift or the lifting of the restrictions sometime in end May, early June, we saw the volume spiking again. So that was a good sign there, where we know that the impact on the ports and shipping and logistics was actually mainly due to the lockdown, where industries could not function, people could not go about doing their daily chores, and where the demand was actually down. But the moment it was lifted, the volume started going up, and we actually saw an increase in volume sometime in between November and December. But beginning November, we saw that there was a sudden spike in the demand, much more than what we saw in August, September, and October. And there was a huge movement of goods. I think it's not just in Port Klang, throughout the world. Shipping lines were suddenly having a huge task in their hands, getting their ships into ports and getting their cargoes cleared to get them to destination. Of course, these were good times for shipping lines. I don't think they've seen this sort of activity for a long time. But it actually then gave a new problem for ports, where we then had a problem to deal with, which was there was due to the demand of the services, we had actually problems handling them. Ports started facing congestion. We had vessel delays. Ships started skipping our ports, omitting calls. And then we had export boxes which were remaining in our yards, transshipment boxes which could not be evacuated as scheduled, and basically terminals were all having problems. And this is the time that we actually went through a difficult period, November and December. It actually went into January before we recovered, and we got the shipping lines to cooperate with us and get more services to get the exports and the transshipment boxes out. But this was just a sign of what to expect. If November and December, January were busy times, can you imagine we were still within the lockdown in many parts of the world? Malaysia went into a second lockdown in January, or rather a third lockdown, I think, in January. And yet the demand was starting to increase. So can you imagine what will happen if there is a total lifting of all restrictions in the coming months? What would be expected of the ports and shipping services? So we are looking at how we're going to handle this spike. We think that there's going to be a lot of demand over the next, at least towards the third quarter, fourth quarter of 2021. So our future plans are looking at, still we'll be looking at capacity development. I'm sure Ruben will be speaking more on this, Westports 2. We are looking beyond Westports 2 at Carey Island, which is a stone throw away from Westports as well. And this is a plan that we have for the next 40 to 50 years. So aside from capacity development, we have learned some lessons. Digital connectivity, we have seen that how important digital connectivity is for our business, especially in logistics. And we are totally going into paperless transaction, although there are a few segments which are still got a lot of catching up to do. We have the terminals actually working on a few of these initiatives themselves. And we are trying to get most of our logistics players, be it for services within the port or anywhere along the supply chain. We are working extra hard, putting out more initiatives to get them all connected. The third initiative is, of course, technology, the use of technology. I think this is the time that maybe we may take our focus off from sustainability. We were very much into it in 2018, 2019, but due to the shift of our focus and our attention, we may have probably put this slightly in the back burner, but we need to keep on or rather revive this again. So sustainability through technology, working on more efficient means of doing our business here, more environmentally friendly. These are some of the initiatives that we will be looking at. So lastly, it's just a few questions that I want to pose. I don't have all the answers here. We are a port authority, very much dependent on our customers, very much dependent on our service providers, the shipping lines, the exporters, the importers. But we are here to do a job for them. We are here to do a job for the country. So I certainly invite all the speakers today and our audience to share your experiences, share your inputs, and see, are we really prepared? Are we today really prepared to face the increase or the anticipated increase in business? Do we have the right tools? Have we learned lessons from what we have seen over the last 1 year? Or is it just a flash in the pan where we said, oh yes, we will look into this, we'll look into that, but after 2 years down the line, we are back to doing the same or doing the business the same way that we have been doing for ages. So I hope we are not. I hope we have learned a lot of lessons from this. But this is where I'll leave you. I'll leave it to the speakers, the 4 speakers that we have today to enlighten us on this. Thank you, Anthony.